Hello everyone and welcome back to our channel. We are Millennial Mom. If you don't know who is who, I'm Millennial. This is Mom. Hello everyone and welcome back to our channel. If you don't know who we are Millennial Mom. With the new background, I want to find the and sign we used to have in the middle, so we boop and boop. But it's somewhere packed.
We'll find it.
Hidden somewhere. But we are here to recap Married at First Sight, Season 15, San Diego. Episode 13, The Ugly Truth. Now, the ugly truth wasn't really ugly. It was truth that we already knew and that they already knew, but it was just more brought into the light of, can this really affect my relationship to where I say no in 2 weeks?
Right. But before we get into the episode, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share. And don't forget about that membership in the description box below. But yes, I agree with you. There's been lots of ugly truth along the way with really all the couples. But the experts are joining us today, all of them minus Dr. Pia. We have Pastor Cal, Dr. Pepper, and if you want to say he's an expert, Devon Franklin.
Pause. I'm not gonna call him an expert.
Okay.
I'm gonna call him as someone who comes in
a
to
guidance
give advice.
counselor. A guidance
They
counselor.
just popped into this one episode because the episode was gonna be over in like 2 weeks. Like, what was the purpose? Like, what they need to tell us, like, I don't know, within 2 weeks after reunion, like, why wasn't he there the whole time?
Well, maybe he'll pop up at the reunion.
It doesn't matter.
But they're there to talk to the couples about where they think they'll be in 2 weeks on decision day. Now, I don't recall them coming in so late before.
I don't recall them coming in not as often.
Well,
So,
they have picked it up a little bit. So, but that's what we're asking for. Where are the experts?
But pause. Sorry. We ask that every season. But this season, I stopped asking because we didn't get it last season. But I feel like we got it less this season.
Well, let's start off with Kristen and Mitch. As the weeks have gone by, it seems like every episode there's something rocky that comes up, like unexpected. Well, unexpected to Kristen.
Or unexpected to Mitch.
No, well, later on, yes. So Kristen is having lunch with Mitch's sister-in-law, Stephanie, to get the inside of, how Mitch is and really like how she can be more, attached to Mitch, like see where he's coming from, because he's such an extreme environmentalist and conservationist that, she's having a hard time seeing eye to eye. But see, the sister-in-law said in the beginning it took a long time for them to get on the same page. But she said that at the wedding reception too, where they learn about each other's families like real quick, or even the day after the breakfast or whatever. And so the sister-in-law said, we didn't necessarily get along. I even came down to the point where, like, even though I'm actually using cloth diapers, it's even gotten so deep with his brother and sister-in-law that he's kind of like pushing his narrative onto them about his conservational ways or whatever. And that's okay. He's into the environment, but guess what? Everyone doesn't see things the same way that you do, Mitch.
Yeah, and people don't have to do the same things that you do just because they're in your family unit. You can keep that on over there with you and your people.
Yeah, and Kristen feels like he's being, I forget the word she uses, but it's pretty much she's saying he's being
Controlling?
Condescending in the way that he's responding to the things that she's saying and her views of what she wants to do in life. And she feels like she has to take a defensive approach. And so the sister-in-law says, well, you just kind of have to like fill out what you need with each other. And then we move to Lindy and Miguel. Okay, so they're on a date, they're throwing axes, and I'm not surprised Lindy's good at this, because Lindy is turned out to be a wild card. You thought Nate was a wild card? At least I did. No, Lindy is that wild card. And they seem to be having a good time, at least on the surface. That's how it seems like, because to me, Lindy has always gone with the flow, but there's like this little like, I don't know, she got like this little sarcasm. What's that? I don't want to reference her like this, but what's that like clown thing, like that like scary clown from Halloween? She's got like kind of a sinister laugh, like you haven't seen nothing yet, kind of,
The song?
I don't know. I don't want to say any reference. Listen, Lindy has something boiling underneath her, which is like, You just wait. Kind of like a scary movie kind of thing underneath the surface. But little does Lindy know that Miguel can see this and he's sensing the tension, right? So even though they're having a good time throwing those axes, and even Miguel gives a little something like, oh, well, she's doing good, but me, not so good. Maybe this is the way I take my stress out. Mm-hmm. And he's like, well, if you're not a real man, if you can't throw an axe. I'm like, okay, Miguel, like, whatever. And so when they're done doing the axe throwing, they talk about the stressors that happen in life, and they talk about the fears that they have. And Lindy expresses again, like, you haven't seen anything yet. And Miguel says, I have a lot of stress based off the fear that's being represented.
He's getting anxiety.
Pretty much. And then so the conversation also comes up about being in a loveless marriage. And Lindy's like, well, yeah, we can work on it. And Miguel's like, no, because if I'm not in love, we can't continue. So that's what I'm saying.
Well, he said he was in love. What was that, last week?
2 weeks ago. And so when Lindy's talk about working it out, Miguel says, she kind of feels uneasy about things. And Miguel says, listen, I hate to break it to you, but you really gonna be threatened by this. If we can't work it out, that's just the reality. And that's that.
I mean, he's been saying that.
Yeah, he has. He didn't say threaten, excuse me. He said, you'll be pissed off. Same thing. So moving to Justin and Alexis, he meets with her friends to get the perspective about Alexis, like where's she coming from. He's trying to figure out what maybe is going to soften her up, because to me, Alexis is rough around the edges, but that is just my opinion. And the first thing he talks about is that dog situation. And even the friends was like, oh, we thought y'all was past that. Are you past it?
I'm past it, but it doesn't matter if I'm past it or you're past it. It matters if Justin and Alexis is past it. Mm-hmm. And maybe Alexis getting past it, but Justin lost his dog, so he probably won't be past it.
No, and so part of the conversation that comes up is Justin saying that maybe he needs to check his tone, and then maybe Alexis needs to check her tone, because Alexis is more, she's a little bit more
abrasive.
There you go, abrasive when it comes to talking. Justin realizes and mentioned the conversation while they're talking that, there's been times when they've been cussing, or he's been cussing at Alexis. And I don't think in my opinion, cussing to Alexis is not going to work out.
I wouldn't say that 100%, because I think we have established, and she's established, that she wants someone who is dominant towards her. Now, dominant doesn't always have to mean you're cursing and all the other stuff. But the way Justin be talking, it's just not, it don't have that oomph to it. So it's kind of like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
It's like me when I talk, No,
move on.
Different.
No. But the friends say that Alexis is probably scared, and she needs a man that's like her. She wants someone who's compassionate and funny. I think Justin is showing compassion, but he also has that sensitive side too. So maybe that's where the miscommunication, or something that Alexis doesn't like in his personality traits, that maybe that's why they're not getting along.
And not getting nothing else.
Right. And then the friends say, well, maybe she's afraid of the process too, because this is unique to you both.
Of course she is, because she's a runner. She's a track star. How she got on the show, I don't know how. Because it's just weird to me.
Right. And of course, Justin mentions his trauma from the past, being let down with his prior relationship before too. But you know what? I don't think that's, just one-sided to Justin. I think a lot of people have gone through relationships where, they've been let down before. But again, I don't know. I personally think they're a mismatch, even though I'm rooting for Black Love. So now Dr. Pepper meets with Kristen and Mitch. And again, Kristen talked about how Mitch is an advocate for the environment, and she even feels guilty about getting a iced latte.
Not guilty, judged for getting iced latte.
Okay.
And Mitch was like, it's not more so me judging you because you get an iced latte. It's more like I want to be proud because you're using the reusable cup for the iced latte. I'm like, you can't force this upon her.
Right.
It's just coffee. She can recycle the cup after. Why does she have to get a reusable cup? You get the reusable cup. And then maybe she'll do it like you halfway used her shirt that she bought you.
Okay. Maybe. So then Dr. Pepper asks, what is it that maybe hasn't gotten figured out by now, like what is, making your road a little bit rocky. Because, the Pastor Cal and Dr. Pepper said, they've heard things, they've gotten reports on their relationships, right? And then Kristen mentions how she wants to flip houses and, resell for a profit. That's her career. That's what she wants to do. Mitch says, what about the families who live there? What about, if they can afford it, if they can, and the footprints and the environmental this and the environmental that and production this. And
you know what I counter with, Mitch? What are you doing to help the people who can't afford it? What is your take on it? What are you bringing to the table besides just talking? Are you a talking revolutionary, or you put in the work by using reusable cups and recycling?
Right.
What do you do?
Right. And Kristen says she could understand what he means by his career choice, his life choices, about his being an environmentalist. But at the same time, like, don't rain on her parade because this is something that she aspires to be.
But I will give it to Mitch because he did say, do you want someone who's always going to be there giving you that reminder every day? And, Kristen's like, I don't know if that's something I want.
To constantly put down someone, regardless of what you believe in and maybe they don't necessarily, over time is probably not gonna end up well.
It's gonna make someone MAD.
Mad?
Yes. That take you a long time.
No, I thought you were gonna say something else.
Well, no, I was gonna say something else,
okay.
but I changed it to the G-rated version. They're gonna be very upset about you doing this all the time. Like, nobody wants to hear that when they come home and they want to relax and like, oh, I see that bag in your car. You went to Target. Should be using a reusable bag anyways. No.
Right. So then Dr. Pepper asks, then Dr. Pepper says, if you both are looking for an ideal person, you're not going to find it because no one is the perfect this, the perfect that. Your ideal person doesn't exist. There's a lot of single people out there still looking for the ideal person.
Yeah,
I'm like,
I feel like that was more so towards Mitch than Kristen because I don't feel like Kristen's trying to build him to the person she wants. He's trying to build her to the person that she can be for him.
Right. And so Dr. Pepper also asks, so what does decision day mean to you both? And Kristen says she feels that they've made a lot of progress in their journey, that she could see them getting there. But then Mitch, before he answers, if he really gave an answer, talked about how, they put a pause on their sex life and they're just trying to figure things out right now. So to me, sometimes Mitch, he does run hot and cold, what a lot of couples do. But he runs hot and cold with the things he says. Sometimes, you give him kudos for being upfront about what he's saying, but other times, to me, I think he's being evasive with the things he's saying because deep down, he wants a different type of outlook of what a woman should be based off appearance. After the meeting with Dr. Pepper, they have a quick conversation and they talk about how living together, Kristen feels like things don't feel as extreme as they could be. And Mitch was like, wait a minute, you haven't seen extreme yet. That kind of gave me a Lindsay thing. You haven't seen extreme yet. And she's like, what do you mean? He's like, well, he gave an example about using cloth paper towels to reuse them and wash them. And Kristen says, as long as I'm not washing them. And then why is Mitch slurping down his food like that?
I don't know. I was kind of annoyed by that. I'm like, what is going on here? I mean, yeah, you could slurp, but Jesus.
Right. So now we move to Stacia and Nate. And they meet with Pastor Cal, and Cal compliments them how incredible they look. And again, I got to report how things are going. And then he mentions about how he's embarrassed of the things he's heard. And Stacia's like, about what? He said, about those sex toys. I'm thinking, see, first of all, even though he was joking, I personally felt that was a little bit inappropriate. Like, why are you, Pastor Cal, even jokingly embarrassed about that? Because when you met them the last time, like he mentioned, you asked, were they having sex? So when there's when they meet with Dr. Pia and they give these little suggestions on how to spice up their sex life, now you're like, I'm a little bit embarrassed. Then they get to the nitty gritty about how are things going? Have you said the L word yet? Stacia says that she said the love word. Nate says he has not. He feels like he has, he adores her. He reciprocates for her.
He has admiration for her.
There you go.
And the admiration will eventually turn into love. And Pastor Cal's kind of like, well, have you wanted to say I love you, but you just did it? And he's like, yeah. And he's like, well, why haven't you? He's like, you know, he just can't right now. Like, it's something that he wants to do, but just something to keep pulling him back.
He has, in my opinion, mommy issues.
For 35 years?
Yeah, he said his mother abandoned him when he was young, or a baby, and he grew up with a single dad. And so he feels abandoned by his mom.
So he wants that woman that he can feel secure with.
He may never necessarily feel secure with a woman like that. And I'll get back to that when Stacia talks with his friends. But then Pastor Cal talks about relationships along the way and has anyone cheated. Nate says no, Stacia says yes. And the way he looked at her was like, what? You cheated? But Stacia said it was like 10 years ago.
If people can say about men, once a cheater, always a cheater, does that apply to women too?
I think it applies to women too. Once a cheater, always a cheater. But and there's always a double standard to certain things with men and women for some reason. But Nate says he's disappointed to learn that Stacia cheated. But just like Cal said, and I was thinking too, like, okay, you may have been disappointed, but A, that was 10 years ago, and B, that was before you, and C, does that make her a different type of person from 10 years ago if she has possibly, changed her ways? You can't judge to say, oh, she's still a cheater, which falls into once a cheater, always a cheater. Stacia says, well, what else can I open up about if I'm just going to be judged about things in my past?
So now that she did open up about something before him, it's like, not like a tick for tack, but I think maybe Stacia can see where he's coming from later down the line. I don't know.
So moving to Lindy and Miguel. Miguel meets with her friends for lunch. And let me say this right now in my notes.
Before you say that, I want to say this.
Okay.
When Miguel was talking to Lindy's friend, I was chilling, I was laying down, I was paying attention. But until Mom texts me,
right, because we don't watch this in the same room just to get our own separate reaction.
She texts me, what'd you say to me? I said, who is Lindy's friend? I cannot. And I was like, wait, that was Lindy's friend? I thought that was his friend, the way they were kikiing with each other.
Listen, exactly. I'm like, who was her friend? I cannot. Because first of all, the friend and Miguel seemed like they had some type of attraction, like a Mindy and her friend was that kind of thing from episodes ago.
It just seemed like they knew each other like from a long time.
The friend wasn't given no... Listen, I barely wrote notes on this part. The friend wasn't given no ideas to Miguel as to what could help out with Lindy. She was co-signing everything Miguel was saying, like, oh yeah, she does get triggered easily. Oh yeah, she does get stressed.
Yeah,
I'm like, who is your friend?
There was this time at work, when she just popped off really quickly. And I was like, it's like, girl, you not even defending her, nothing. Not even saying, maybe she does, get a little angry sometimes, but she does know how to self-soothe herself and come to one. Something to make it sound like she's trying.
And then it didn't help any that production showed clips of Lindy going off because she didn't have no insurance. Lindy going off for the last name. Lindy just being triggered. But the friend, I just moved past that because it really was nothing to write.
It just, check for Miguel in his boxes.
So now Devon has come to the building. He says he's...
For this couple and this couple.
Yes, I noticed that. He is with Alexis and Justin and says he has been brought here and he's been learning about what's been going on and he's encouraged.
I'm here. Wait, Pastor Cal said he is here to be, a life coach.
Okay.
Or did he say that? Doesn't matter. That's what his job is. Life coach.
Right, yeah. And Devon starts off with the topic of the club. And he asks Alexis, so what is the feeling in that environment that gives you what you're looking for versus at home? And Alexis says, because, I work hard and, I need a stress reliever when I get off. And when I'm at the club, that's where I feel like I have fun and I can let loose.
That's her freedom. But you know what's crazy to me? You signed up for this show to be married. So,
that conversation does come up.
What did you think was going to happen to all your freedom? You was going to have someone who's going to be like, where you at? Where you at? Where you at? That's what you wanted. Or so she thought she wanted.
Well, a lot of them have thought they wanted this. Last few seasons hadn't worked out well. But Alexis says she's been wanting her freedom and she doesn't want, like you said, but she doesn't also want to feel smothered. And I'm thinking, okay, if you go out to the club every weekend and you're at work Monday through Friday, why do you need to go to the club every weekend or brunch every weekend? How come you and Justin can't go to the club together? Or how come you can't go to brunch together?
Because it's still smothering. He's still around. She doesn't want him to be around.
Devon says, why don't you go deeper into the marriage? And what does that look like? And he said that to Justin. And Justin says his fear is losing her to the club or someone at the club. I'm thinking that might already be happening. Devon says, so then Alexis says that with his questioning, I forgot exactly what he said, but something like, what else could you do together as a couple? She said she likes doing like extreme sports. She likes hiking, skydiving.
I can do that.
Yeah, I don't see, Justin, I don't see you skydiving.
He wants to do whatever Alexis likes to do to keep Alexis.
So he says.
So they're trying to find a common ground, but is it really something he wants to do?
I don't know. But you know what? Devon,
I mean, he likes to fly kites, so maybe he does like to be outside.
Millennial.
That wasn't shade.
That sounded like it was shade.
No.
Let us know in the comments. When Justin mentioned that he would lose her to the club, Alexa said that, you know what, I'm proud of you. And I'm thinking, well, what context was that in? Because he said it out loud like, oh, girl, if you go to the club, I'm lose you to the club. I'm so proud of you. Like, that don't go together.
I don't know, maybe you missed something in between.
No, I don't think I did. Let me know in the comments. But either way, Devon is trying to get Justin to see how him saying no to Alexis going to the club and brunch or whatever she does without him could be looked as controlling. And he gave different examples as such. And Justin's like, I didn't realize I could be controlling. And I'm thinking, see, I don't necessarily agree with that. I don't necessarily agree that it's controlling. Maybe in the way that he's saying, like, I don't want you to go to the club, or however they're expressing their communication about it.
Just because he's not being aggressive doesn't mean he's not being passive aggressive about it.
No, I know, but to me, it's the same for Alexis. Like, I kind of think that Alexis is being controlling, going to the club too, in a way, passive aggressive about, like, I'm going anyways because you're not going to tell me what to do. You know I don't want to be here. I don't want to be smothered. So me being at the club or somewhere besides here is her version of controlling the situation as well. And then he gave an analogy, Devon, to Justin. You need to be kind of like be the man in the mirror, like be butt naked and see who you are. First of all, listen. I know I am very bright. Yes, I'm tooting my own horn. But that analogy right there did two things. One, it either went over my head, or two, it just didn't make sense. And I'm going to roll with two. Because, what am I missing? Like, I'm missing some parts of this Devon, Justin, Alexis conversation. Like, I didn't know what was happening here.
Maybe I can help you with this.
Please.
What I got from him saying that in the intimacy part is, because he was relating himself to Justin.
I got that.
He was saying in the past, he has been the person who wasn't dominant, who wasn't making the first move. But he has to realize, with this woman right here, he has to be the man that she needs in this situation. So he has to look at himself in the mirror. He's staring at the man in the mirror because he has to make a change. If he wants to make his marriage different, he has to look at himself and make a change.
I'm standing on what I said. Let's move on to Dr. Pepper and Morgan and Ben. You know what? We're just going to break this down into a little simple scenario.
We don't need to. We do need to.
It's
do.
Really
simple.
Okay, so Morgan, they walked in, and I actually like what Ben said. He said, he wanted to save his relationship. Well, not that part, because we knew it was over. But just the way he came in calm. But I think Ben is conditioned to be calm, cool, and collected. Just, again, based on his upbringing. But he didn't come on. I didn't feel any negative energy. That's what I mean by that.
I'm kind of sad because I want to see more of his cheapy side. We didn't get to see that.
We didn't get to see nothing.
We was cheated off the cheapy.
And Morgan, I don't know. She just, as we all know, she just never got past that trust. She didn't get past. She has daddy issues. Ben has daddy issues. At least Ben said he's working on it, going to therapy, things like that. And Morgan, again, the shady part of Morgan was when she showed her phone. Zoom in on this. Zoom in on it. You can Google, like you could Google me. You could Google the nursing. I'm like, that wasn't even necessary, Morgan. Like she said she had to prove a point.
You already established your point, and if you don't prove your point on camera, you always have, millions of times to be on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook Live, Instagram Live, YouTube Live, whatever,
right,
to prove your point.
Well,
but you don't have to keep proving your point to someone you claim you don't trust.
Well, the bottom line is, Dr. Pepper said, so it sounds like you all are at your decision day right now. And this is the first time in all the years, and we've seen every season of Married at First Sight history, this has ever happened.
They didn't keep forcing the couple to
They didn't keep forcing the narrative. And they both decided that they were going to get a divorce. So that was it.
Mm-hmm.
So Ben actually wished her well. It's like she needed to let it go, and hopefully, she could move past this. Versus Margaret was like, you know what, I'm still, pretty much. Later in the evening, after that, Stacia meets with Nate's friend and cousin, and that's, it touched back on the conversation that Nate had with her friends and together with Pastor Cal. And that's when, we'll just break it down, that Stacia asked about Nate and how he would be and how they're getting along. She said they're getting along pretty good, but he's still afraid to say I love you and like that. And the friends broke down with, they've known Nate for 15 plus years. They've only seen him or known him to say I love you to his family, his family. And he may have had like a puppy love growing up. He has hard to trust people, hard to, express himself. Mm-hmm. And Stacia is like, in confessionals, he's 35 years old, and he's never, there is such a thing, Stacia, called the 40-year-old version. So technically, it's not, something that's impossible to do. I think the friends were saying, without saying, that because of the abandonment with his mom.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. That's what I got back to.
I like that the friends did kind of say to her, like, she is basically the first woman he's been around to really push him.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe she's pushing him in the right direction for him to want to say it, for him to want to keep opening up.
Right.
Because even when he was with her friends earlier, they were kind of like, you kind of have to be on her level. You have to just try to get her love language down. And he didn't really like knock them down for saying he has to be on her level.
Right.
He was like, that's something that I want to do.
Yeah, but one thing, to be on her level. And then the friend said, well, she wants things. Well, Nate says she wants things now, and they co-sign that. But I don't think you have to give in to someone because they want something now. They have to learn to compromise too. So I think if they stay together, that could push Nate away because he's going to have a hard time with that.
She has to keep showing patience that he claims that she's doing.
Mm-hmm.
So if he's doing it and she's doing it, I think it could work.
Okay. So then moving to Pastor Cal again, he talks with Lindy and Miguel. He says, hey, good. He's full of sarcastic jokes tonight. He's talking about, oh, you looking good. You look like you're glowing.
You look like you're pregnant.
And I'm like, come on. Mm-hmm. They just had baby McGindy, Yeah,
and Lindy wasn't for McGindy.
No, Lindy said again, that baby is up all night. Again, that's what babies do, Lindy. That's just what they do. Mm-hmm. But they're asking about the challenges, and Miguel again talks about the stress. He's having a hard time with it. He said there's a pattern that he may not be able to live with going forward, and it may not be sustainable.
Yeah, the negative comment she keeps making, and she's like, well, are you holding a grudge against me? And he's like, no, it's not a grudge. It's just like something that's building up within inside me that's just not really attainable to me. And then I feel like Pastor Cal's kind of playing devil's advocate with Miguel, just a little bit.
A little bit.
Because he asked Lindy, well, from 1 to 10, how high have you been with your feistiness? And she's like, a 4.5. And then he was like, well, have you ever been on a 10? Like, how many times have you been on a 10? And she's like, maybe once or 2 times in my life. And he was like, see, Miguel, you're seeing the normal Lindy. You probably won't even get the on 10 Lindy. She's just regular for right now. So don't put yourself in a doomsday position when doomsday hasn't occurred yet.
Yeah, and Miguel, he don't even want to see a 10. He's afraid of...
He don't want the 4.5.
He's afraid of what he's seen so far, like 2 episodes ago when she was making eggs and putting too much onions in the eggs and she had flipped out, and with baby McGindy. So now we see Mitch again talking to Kristen's sister.
I just want to give Kristen's sister a round of applause. because she clocked him at every turn. But Mom, before he even got to really dive into getting the questions that he wanted answered, she was like, well, what are you doing to meet her expectations? Like, what are you trying to do to overcome that?
Honestly, Mitch kind of like, he stutter steps a lot. Like I said, he's hot and cold, and he stutter steps a lot.
Yeah,
and
we saw this episode.
And he tries to give the answer that he thinks you want to hear. That's what I think, right?
To a certain degree.
Yeah, well, to a certain degree. And then her sister says, well, are you open-minded to Kristen? You know, are you open-minded to what she wants? Because Kristen deserves someone who's going to be all in, right? And, you know, that's what she needs. And then Mitch again says, you know, I really prefer her, you know, when we're relaxing at night, she's more natural and has her no make, you know, a little bit of makeup and has her natural wavy hair. And, you know, do you think she would consider not wearing as much makeup? And then her sister said, you know what? Women, not just Kristen, you know, wear makeup not necessarily for a man, but for themselves, you know, to make them feel good. Not just that her sister has told her that she spends a lot of time figuring out the scenario about, you know, if he's really good for her and
or if he's really attracted to her. Is he
Yeah.
not attracted to her because of everything that happened in the beginning?
Right.
Because, you know, he wanted some more hippie, more laid back, and that's not what he got, so he had to overcome that scenario. And her sister is like, you know, what she really needs to do is figure out if you are really for her.
Boop.
Not what can she do to change for you.
Right.
But I will say that I don't feel 100% that Mitch was coming from a bad place.
No, I don't think so either.
But he is trying to control in a certain aspect.
Now it's the next day. It's the next evening, actually. All the couples are sitting together, and all the couples show up, including Morgan and Ben. And Ben said he's going to come anyways. It's his last day. He's made a lot of friends, and he hopes that Morgan is okay. But listen, I'm here anyway. So I find it interesting that Morgan and Kristen are sitting together. And while they're sitting together, she learns, that's when Kristen learns that Morgan and Ben aren't together anymore. But then Kristen is venting to Morgan about what she heard her sister say to Mitch, right? And I'm thinking, wow, like, is really the person you want to vent to? But at this point, I don't think Kristen really cares about who she is talking to. So they're doing what they're doing, you know, mixing, mingling, eating, whatever.
Well, Kristen says she about to pop off. She's letting them seeds flow, but she gonna let it be known.
And then when they come together to sit around the fire pit, they talk, you know, go around asking how each other's visits were with the experts and Mr. Franklin. And Morgan tells everyone it's their last day.
Yeah, go ahead. I was gonna say that.
Okay, it's their last day, and Ben and Morgan both say it's bittersweet. Mitch asks, do they feel at peace? Morgan says yes. And then she goes on to say, well, I know for a fact that Ben is not the partner for me. Okay. All right, Morgan. Okay.
And like, will they ever be friends? We will never be friends because I don't trust him. And Ben's kind of like, you know, wish her the
Let
best.
it go. Like Frozen.
But he is correct. If she doesn't let this situation go, she's going to take this to the next person.
Right. And different little conversations. Lindy, Miguel, they say they're doing good. Lindy mentioned about the baby. They weren't sure if it was a boy or a girl. But then Miguel makes a little joke really about himself too. When Lindy says, oh, he had like a little teeny weeny. And Miguel says, oh, well, that's kind of like the Santiago. So I guess he's like telling on himself. But anyway.
And Justin reveals, you know, that he needs to be a little bit more dominant because that's what she's used to. But he also lets us know that he's not really confident going into decision day. And I was kind of surprised that he let us know that in this scenario. And then when we came along to Mitch and Kristen, Mitch, you know, says he talked to Dr. Pepper. And Alexa says, you know, are you okay with Kristen being who she is, you know, with the makeup, the hair, or are you still kind of like wanting her to be toned down? And Mitch was like, I said that.
Right. Did I say that? Who,
I
me?
didn't say that. And you know, some people's like, No, I didn't hear you say that, but some people like,
Well, yeah, a few people did.
no, you said that. You said that. And Kristen was like, no, you said that because my sister told me what you said. And by the time, she was kind of going off, she didn't really go into detail. That's when Devon, Dr. Pepper, and Pastor Cal pops up.
And said that we've been listening. But they didn't necessarily address the situation at first. They just got to talking to the different people and about what was going on. But when they finally did talk to Mitch and Kristen about everything, Dr. Pepper says, well, what happened? Because when I talked to you, what dynamic changed? And then Kristen was saying how she learned about the conversation with her sister. And then Mitch, for some reason, I don't understand why he was in denial. Like, mentioning that he didn't say these things or he didn't necessarily feel...
He felt attacked in that situation.
Yeah, he did. And I was like, you do? Or something you said. But see, again, trying to change the narrative to what...
It's positive.
Right. And so, even though he was saying it blew his mind, Kristen bottom-minded and said that she was done. And I was like, wow, you're done? But then while they were talking, I throw this part in there too, I'm sorry. That when they were talking, Stacia and Nate, Stacia said under his breath, he said, you think they're going to make it? Stacia was like, no. I was like, okay. you know?
And even when Mitch was basically saying, I do feel attraction to her.
Right.
Everyone felt like, that was a little bit too slow. And Dr. Pepper, I feel like she's the most taken back about this than anyone. And she's like, like, I'm sorry that you're going through this. Like, maybe you guys can talk a little bit later. Have, like, deeper conversations. And she's like, I don't want a conversation right now. I don't want an apology from you. I want an apology from him, and I want what is really on his mind, basically.
Right, because Dr. Pepper said she's going to take this the way I'm taking it. And Cal and Devon was like, And it's true. It came off underhanded is what it was. And Mitch is just sitting there like as if he is just oblivious, don't know what's going on in the situation. But
he was just on the defense because he didn't know how to approach it, because he didn't know how to approach the situation to begin
felt like
with.
he was on the spot.
But he shouldn't have told her sister, because your sister's going to tell you.
Right.
Like, why you do that?
Pretty much.
But that was pretty much the episode.
Yeah.
That was the ugly truth, quote unquote. It was just stuff more revealed to the light this time around.
Right.
But I'm excited for next week's episode. We in the hills.
A B&B, a camp, I don't know where
We in
they're.
the hills.
Okay.
Instead of the cabin. But I'm excited to see it because it looks like Miss Lindy has went from a 4.5 to a 6. And Miguel don't like it.
To a 6. I think she went to a 10.
That was no 10.
Okay, well, we'll
That
see.
wasn't a 10.
So.
All right, so thank you all so much for watching. If you haven't already stopped the video to comment yet, make sure you leave a comment. You like this video, you join the membership. Mom's gonna start doing her weekly videos next week. It's gonna be a vibe. So hopefully we see you all Friday for Love After Lockup.
Well, Friday, but it'll be out on Saturday. Thank you all again for watching. And as always, live simply, be grateful.